In case you have forgotten, this is still an election year. There's actually somebody still running against President Trump for the 2020 election. And most of us have forgotten about that, right? Because the Democrat candidates are virtually invisible. No one ever hears anything from them. And now the media has tried to go off and start giving them some coverage because Trump is in front of the cameras every day with the task force giving updates. And those updates are getting viewerships that rival the season finales of some TV shows. And that doesn't even include the live streams, of the task force, right? And so they're trying to give more coverage to Joe Biden and trying to make him more visible because Biden is the presumptive nominee. He's got the delegates, for it. However, when Joe Biden goes online and decides to do some live streams, what happens? He doesn't even get 3,000 viewers. Now, it's interesting that he calls it happy hour live stream because it gives the indication that his problem isn't cognitive decline, but rather drunk. But I'm sure that's in reality just a name, right? That it is actually cognitive decline. But in any event, he's doing these live streams, trying to act like, a president, and where he's giving information on what he would do. Of course, what he would do is just basically wait to see what Trump does and then tries to rip that off for himself. But in any event, the fact that this is the presumptive Democrat nominee for the 2020 presidential election, and he cannot even get 3,000 people to watch his live streams. And you wonder why the Democrats are going off and trying to make massive power plays using the current crisis as an excuse to do so. Now, we've known for quite some time that the Democrats really haven't had a chance in the 2020 election, that their actions and behavior have been so disgusting and so horrible that they forfeited the 2020 election before the crisis broke out. And it's just been interesting to see just how weak the Democrats are in about every situation, every possible way, right? Because they've tried using the media to push all these hoaxes against the president. And now they're running ads that even other left-wing sites are saying, yeah, that's a complete lie. That fact check shows that is completely debunked. But what do you do? What do you do if you're the Democrats? You hate President Trump and your own candidates, the person who was able to get through the primaries, is somebody that doesn't have a shot. No one cares to listen to. That, his whole image was just being propped up. That when you actually force him to try and talk for any length of time, and that there isn't a crowd for him to be able to pause and pretend like he's only pausing to let them cheer. What do you do? With that, when people are able to actually see him for who and what he is, Oh, man, it must be very difficult to be a Democrat during this time, that you don't have an electable candidate. Now, some people are going off, well, we could still go to Bernie Sanders. No, not really. I mean, we see what Democrats are doing right now, even with a Republican in office, the power plays that they are making. We don't want to know how much worse it would be if there was an actual socialist in the White House, right? We don't want to be set facing a crisis for somebody who has no plan, who's never done anything. I mean, Bernie Sanders has been a useless sponge his entire life. And Bernie Sanders only plays to the far left, right? The far left radicals of the party, but turns off everybody in the middle and to the right. He would have zero shot. And so this is why some people are speculating that, that they're giving the New York governor Cuomo so much coverage and streaming or broadcasting his daily briefings because they're thinking that there's going to be a brokered convention and therefore they can ditch Biden and ditch Sanders and go for Cuomo, who they can push up or prop up as being just as much of a leader in a time of crisis as Trump. Someone who was leading the charge, someone who they could claim was actually working harder and being more effective than Trump. And this is why you got Cuomo, being able to garner, as a state governor, the attention that he is doing daily briefings, even though Cuomo himself really isn't doing much. He's just going through and being the middleman between the people on the front lines and Trump's administration, communicating back and forth what is needed and what, is actually available, which is pretty interesting. Now, yes, he has some things and he's making power plays that will have huge ramifications for the state of New York. But the leading theory at this point is that, with Biden, being a garbage candidate, Bernie Sanders, not being able to gain any support out of the radical left-wing base, is that they're going to have to try and find a way to create a brokered convention in which they can get rid of both nominees and replace them with someone that the country is more likely to see as being able to step up in a time of crisis. And now it makes sense why Cuomo, whose job is more of a middleman between the federal government and the frontline workers, why he's getting so much coverage, right? And yeah, if I was the Democrats, I'd probably be making that move too.